The night was alive with music, laughter, and the glitter of countless lights. The kind of party I usually avoided, preferring quiet corners and soft conversations. Yet tonight I was here for her. I had followed her into this world of noise and chaos, hoping that somewhere in the crowd I would find the place she reserved for me. She was radiant, as always, moving effortlessly through the throng of friends, her laughter rising above the music. People gravitated toward her warmth, drawn to her energy like moths to a flame. I watched, a silent shadow, hoping for a glance, a smile, anything that would tether her attention to me. But she never noticed. Or perhaps she chose not to. I waited, convincing myself that she would turn back, that she would remember that I had come for her, not for the spectacle. My heart tightened every time she drifted farther away. Her back turned, her laughter carried by the music, like it belonged to someone else. There was a peculiar ache in knowing that someone you care for can exist so close, yet be entirely unreachable. I had hoped this night would be different, that she would pause, see me, and choose me. Instead, she was enveloped in the crowd, smiling and laughing, unaware of the longing in my eyes. And in that instant, clarity struck me like a sudden winter wind. I realized I was not invisible, not unnoticed. I was optional. My presence meant little in the world she had chosen for herself. And though my heart ached, a quiet resolve began to form. I did not argue. I did not beg. I did not try to pull her back. I simply stepped away, leaving the glitter and the noise behind. For the first time that night, I felt a strange, liberating warmth. The gentle power, choosing myself, of honoring my own heart. It had all started in a quiet corner of the library, with a hum of whispered conversations and turning pages created a world of its own. I noticed her first because she wasn't loud or attention-seeking like she would become later. She was quietly radiant, absorbed in a book, her eyes tracing each line with a gentle intensity. There was something about her that drew me in, something subtle yet magnetic. We met over a shared love of words, ideas, and laughter that came unbidden. Our first conversation was awkward, hesitant, yet it carried a spark neither of us could ignore. She smiled, and in that smile, I felt a strange sense of belonging, as if I had stumbled upon a place I had been searching for all my life. In the days that followed, our worlds intertwined effortlessly. We spoke of dreams, of fears tucked away in secret corners, of ambitions too fragile to voice to anyone else. She admired my calm, steady nature, the way I listened without judgment, while I found myself captivated by her energy, her fiery spirit that could light up the dullest moments. There was balance in our differences, a harmony that felt rare and precious. For a while, everything was simple. We laughed at silly jokes, shared quiet walks, and discovered the comfort of each other's presence. She confided in me her love for life's grand adventures, and I found myself wanting to step into her world, to share in that light. I adjusted, bending and stretching to match her rhythm, attending events I didn't particularly enjoy, always hoping to be a part of her laughter. But little by little, I noticed the cracks. She thrived in the crowd, her gaze constantly seeking admiration from the world around her, while I sought depth, connection, and quiet moments that mattered. I gave, adjusted, and waited for her to meet me halfway. But she seldom did. And yet, despite the imbalance, I loved her, deeply and silently, believing that perhaps love could bridge the gap. I never realizing that sometimes, no matter how much you give, your heart's true value is only recognized when you choose yourself first. The night of the party had returned to my memory with startling clarity, as if no time had passed at all. The music pulsed through the room, bright lights dancing off mirrored surfaces, laughter and chatter creating a lively, intoxicating chaos. I had come for her, my heart holding on to hope that tonight might be different. But as I stood at the edge of the crowd, watching her drift from friend to friend, it became painfully clear that I was no longer part of her world. She laughed, radiant and unrestrained, her back turned toward me more than once. I tried to tell myself it was nothing, that she was just caught up in the moment, that she didn't mean to hurt me. But deep down, I knew the truth. She had made her choice long before that night. She had chosen the crowd, the excitement, the endless chase of attention over the quiet depth of what we had shared. I waited for a fleeting glance, a sign that she noticed me, that perhaps our connection still mattered. But the signs never came. With every passing minute, the realization settled heavier in my chest. My presence was irrelevant, my patience invisible. The ache in my heart was sharp, but beneath it lay something new, something I hadn't felt before, a quiet strength. I didn't argue. I didn't plead. I didn't try to pull her back. Instead, I stepped away, letting the noise and glitter fade behind me. The decision wasn't born of anger or resentment. It was born of respect, self-respect. I understood, finally, that love was not meant to demand attention or sacrifice dignity. True love, I realized, required recognition of one's own worth. As I walked into the stillness outside, the cool night air brushing against my face, I felt a strange liberation. For the first time, I was choosing myself, honoring my own heart above the desire to be chosen by someone who couldn't see my value. That night, I learned a lesson that no party, no laughter, no fleeting attention could ever teach. Sometimes walking away is not giving up. It is embracing the courage to love yourself fully. The days after the party were quieter than I had expected, but the silence was deafening in its own way. The world went on as usual. People laughed, deadlines passed, music played, but my mind kept returning to that night. I wondered if she had noticed my absence, if a flicker of regret had crossed her mind. And yet, the messages I received were casual, almost careless. "Where did you disappear?" I read her words and felt a pang, an echo of the longing I had tried to bury. But I didn't respond. Not out of anger, not out of spite, but because I had learned something crucial. Respect doesn't need to be explained, and love doesn't demand justification. My silence was not emptiness. It was strength. There were moments of doubt, of course. I questioned myself endlessly. Had I overreacted? Was I too sensitive? Did I misinterpret her laughter, her glance, her choices? The answers eluded me, and yet a part of me knew that self-respect is a quiet, unwavering truth that cannot be bargained away. I began to understand that leaving her world was not a loss, but gift I gave myself, a gift of freedom, dignity, and emotional clarity. Without her presence dominating my heart, I could finally breathe, think, and exist without compromise. My own needs, once overshadowed by my desire to be chosen, took their rightful place. Life moved on. I carried the ache of absence, but it was tempered by the knowledge that I had made the right choice. Love had taught me its harshest lesson. Sometimes, holding on hurts more than letting go. The silence between us, heavy as it felt, became a space for reflection, growth, and the quiet reclaiming of my own identity. For the first time in years, I realized that I did not need her acknowledgement to validate my worth. I had walked away, not because I stopped caring, but because I began to care for myself. And in that care, I discovered a peace more profound than any fleeting affection, a resilience that would carry me far beyond the glittering, chaotic night that had once held my heart captive. 5 years had passed since that night, and yet the memory lingered with a clarity that surprised me. Not as a wound, but as a quiet marker of a turning point in my life. I had walked away from her world, and in doing so, I had stepped into my own. The years were not easy. Growth rarely is. But they were mine, unclaimed by anyone else, and in them, I discovered the strength I had lacked when I waited at the edge of that crowd. I focused on my career, immersing myself in work that challenged and inspired me. Each project, each late night, became a testament to my own perseverance. I traveled alone, sometimes to places I had once dreamed of sharing with her, and I reveled in the independence I had feared I would never enjoy. Slowly, I learned the beauty of being alone without feeling lonely, of cherishing my own company rather than depending on another for validation. Love came in fleeting moments, brief sparks that reminded me of my heart's capacity. But I never sought it, and I never settled. I had learned that love without respect is hollow, and I refused to feel that emptiness for anyone again. Friends noticed a change in me, calmer, more grounded, and yet carrying a quiet confidence that drew people naturally. I had become someone who no longer needed to chase approval, someone who understood that self-worth is not measured by another's gaze. Yet, every now and then, memories of her surfaced, not sharp or bitter, but reflective. I remembered her laughter, The way her eyes lit up when she spoke passionately about the things she loved, the subtle charm that had once captivated me. I did not dwell on regret. I did not mourn what could have been. Instead, I honored the lesson she had unintentionally taught me. That sometimes love is not about holding on, but about letting go, and that true courage is choosing oneself when no one else will. In these years, I discovered a peace I had never known. Life continued, unpredictable and unrelenting, but I met each day with a sense of quiet ownership. I had been optional once, but no longer. I had chosen myself, and in that choice, I found freedom, dignity, and a heart resilient enough to face anything, even the possibility of seeing her again. She had moved through the years with her usual energy, immersing herself in a whirlwind of social events, friendships, and fleeting romances. The parties, the laughter, the constant attention. It had always been her world, and she had thrived in it. Yet, beneath the dazzling surface, a quiet emptiness often settled, the kind of emptiness that only comes when someone meaningful is missing from your life. She remembered him sometimes, more vividly than she expected. His calm presence, the way he listened without judgment, the rare patience he offered freely. It was something no one else had ever given her. She realized slowly that the attention she had chased for years could never replace the depth of connection she had taken for granted. There were moments of regret, though not sharp or accusatory, just a gentle ache in the back of her mind. She wondered what he had become, whether he was happy, whether he had forgiven her absence in the party crowd. She often thought of the life they might have had, but these thoughts were tinged more with reflection than with longing. For the first time, she began to understand the lessons he had silently imparted. That love without respect is hollow, that presence without choice is meaningless, and that sometimes the person you need most is the one you fail to appreciate when they are right in front of you. She had confused attention with connection, admiration with commitment, and in doing so, she had allowed someone precious to slip quietly from her life. Even years later, she felt a subtle longing, not for the past, but for the understanding she had gained too late. She realized it had taught her something she could never have learned in the noise of her world. The true value of someone who chooses to honor themselves, no matter how quietly or painfully it might hurt. It was a quiet afternoon when our paths crossed again. I didn't expect it, of course. Life had a way of moving unpredictably, but there she was, standing across a sunlit cafe, her figure familiar, yet subtly changed by time. The years had softened her edges, added a quiet grace to her movements, but the spark in her eyes remained unmistakable. Time seemed to pause in that instant. I felt a strange mix of nostalgia and calm, a quiet anticipation that had nothing to do with longing and everything to do with understanding. She noticed me as well, and for a brief moment, the world around us, the chatter, the clinking cups, the distant hum of traffic, faded into nothing. We approached each other cautiously, aware of the history that stretched between us yet unspoken. There was no drama, no rushed apologies, only the gentle acknowledgement of the years that had passed. She smiled a little hesitantly, and I returned it with a quiet steadiness that had once been my anchor. The conversation was polite, honest, and careful. She spoke of the years, of what she had learned, of how she now understood the meaning of respect and choice. There was a subtle regret in her voice, not of love lost, but of the lessons that had arrived too late. I listened, absorbing her words, feeling neither anger nor bitterness. I had carried my own lessons for half a decade, and they had shaped me into someone who no longer sought validation from another. When she mentioned the party, the night that had once fractured us, she admitted softly that she hadn't realized the weight of her choices. I nodded, acknowledging her honesty, but without the need for reconciliation. Our eyes met one last time, and in them was mutual recognition. She had grown, I had grown, and the world had moved us both forward. I left with a calm certainty, walking away not in sorrow, but in quiet triumph. 5 years had passed, yet the lesson remained clear. She had chosen the crowd, and I had chosen myself. And in that choice, I had discovered the strength to honor my own heart, finally and completely. The encounter left a lingering warmth, but not the kind that pulls you back. It was a gentle reminder that some stories do not end with together, and that closure is often quieter, simpler, and more profound than any dramatic reconciliation. I realized that her presence in my life had served its purpose long before this meeting, that she had been a teacher disguised as love, showing me the depth of my own heart and the boundaries I must never compromise. We spoke, we smiled, and then we parted, not as lovers, not as friends, but as two people who had grown apart and, in doing so, had grown into themselves. There was no bitterness, no unresolved tension, only the mutual recognition that life had unfolded as it should. Walking away, I felt the freedom I had carried with me over the years, now amplified by understanding. I had loved, I had waited, and I had walked away when it mattered most. That choice had shaped the person I had become, resilient, grounded, and aware of my own worth. Sometimes, the greatest acts of love are not the ones that bring people together, but the ones that allow them to step into their own lives with dignity. I had learned that love for oneself is not selfish. It is essential, and so as I moved forward, I carried no regret, only gratitude, for the lessons, the growth, and the quiet strength that comes from choosing oneself above all else. She had chosen the crowd. I had chosen my self-respect, and that choice changed everything. The night air was calm as I walked alone, the city lights casting a gentle glow on the streets. For years, I had carried a memory of her, the ache of absence, and the lessons of that one fateful party. But now, I understood something I had only glimpsed before. Self-respect is the truest form of love we can give to ourselves and ultimately to others. I had once believed that love meant holding on, following her world, bending to fit her life. But love without respect is hollow, and patience without recognition is futile. By walking away, I had not lost. I had gained clarity, strength, and a sense of peace that no relationship could have offered. Some people enter our lives to teach us lessons we cannot learn alone. She had been one of those people, and though our paths diverged, I carried her memory with gratitude rather than sorrow. She chose the crowd. I chose my self-respect. And in that choice, I discovered a love deeper than longing, steadier than attachment, and enduring enough to guide me through every moment that followed. For the first time, I realized that choosing oneself is not selfish. It is a beginning of true freedom, growth, and the kind of love that never fades.